No birds sang in Black Hollow. That was the first thing Elias Crow noticed when he arrived. The village lay deep in the Carpathian foothills, surrounded by forests so dense they swallowed sound. Stone houses leaned inward, as if listening. At the center stood an old chapel, its bell tower cracked and leaning, the bell inside wrapped tightly in iron chains. Elias had come because of a manuscript. A 17th-century journal had surfaced in a private collection, written by a monk who described a curse that fed on remembrance. Entire bloodlines erased. A village that survived only by forgetting. Black Hollow. The locals did not welcome him. "You shouldn't stay past nightfall," the innkeeper warned, refusing to meet his eyes. "The bell rings when it's hungry." Elias smiled politely. He had heard worse legends. According to the journal, Black Hollow had once been prosperous. Until the winter of 1643, when villagers uncovered something beneath the chapel during renovations. The monk called it the listener. "It has no body," the journal read. "It listens to names. It feeds on stories. When remembered, it wakes." That winter, people began disappearing. Not dying. Vanishing. No bodies. No graves. Even memories of them faded within days. Mothers forgot children. Wives forgot husbands. Only the bell remained, ringing at dusk whenever the thing fed. The solution, the monk wrote, was simple and monstrous. They chained the bell. And they never spoke the lost names again. Elias spent his days interviewing villagers. They all told the same story, with unsettling precision. "There are no graves older than 3 generations," said the schoolteacher. "We don't keep records," said the mayor. "Writing invites memory. When someone leaves," whispered a woman at the well, "we do not ask where." At night, Elias heard the chains on the bell tower shift, metal groaning under invisible pressure. On the 3rd night, the bell rang. Once. Low. Deep. Close. The innkeeper screamed. By morning, the man's room was empty. His belongings remained. His name did not. When Elias asked about the innkeeper, the villagers stared blankly. "There has never been an innkeeper," the mayor said. Elias checked his notes. The page where the man's name had been written was blank. Panic crept into reason. Elias locked his journals. Carved names into wood. Repeated facts aloud to himself. "My name is Elias Crow. I am here to study the curse. I remember." That night, he returned to the chapel. The chains were loose. Not broken, worn, as if something had been pulling from the other side for centuries. Beneath the altar, he found a stone stairway leading down. The air below was warm. Breathing. The chamber was circular, its walls carved with thousands of names, scratched, chiseled, layered over one another. In the center stood a stone basin filled with black water. Elias leaned closer. The surface rippled. Voices whispered. Not aloud, but inside him. "Tell us. Remember us." He understood then. The listener did not kill. It traded. It took memories in exchange for peace. The village had survived by starving it. The final pages of the monk's journal lay beside the basin. Elias read them with shaking hands. We learned too late. The listener does not awaken by remembrance alone. It awakens when someone comes to witness the truth. Elias froze. The water stilled. A reflection appeared. Not his. A woman stood behind him. "You were never meant to leave," she said. He turned. The mayor. Her eyes were ancient. "You always come back," she continued gently. "Someone always does." "What do you mean?" Elias whispered. She smiled with sadness. "You are the historian," she said. "Every generation, one is born who remembers too much." Memory crashed into him like a breaking dam. Other lives. Other names. Other arrivals. Each time, he uncovered the truth. Each time, he chose the same ending. The bell rang above them. Chains snapped. The listener spoke, not in sound, but in understanding. One name, it offered. One story. To sleep again. Elias knew. He stepped forward. "My name," he said clearly. "Take it." The mayor wept. The black water surged. When dawn came, Black Hollow was silent again. The bell was chained. A stranger sat at the inn's empty table, reading a journal he did not remember writing. The villagers welcomed him kindly. "What brings you here?" the mayor asked. The man frowned. I don't know, he said. I just felt like I belonged. She smiled. Far beneath the chapel, the basin stilled. But somewhere in the dark, something waited. For the next one who asked too many questions. The stranger stayed. That alone should have unsettled the village. He occupied the inn's corner table every morning, drinking black coffee he did not remember ordering, reading a leather-bound journal he could not recall writing. The villagers told themselves this was normal. Outsiders came. Outsiders stayed. Outsiders left. Except he did not leave. He began asking questions. Not aloud at first, only small hesitations. A pause when the bell tower came into view. A tightening in his chest when dusk fell. A strange grief with no source. At night, he dreamed. He stood beneath a chapel, surrounded by carved names. Some were familiar. Some were not. One name echoed louder than the rest, pounding against the inside of his skull like a fist against a door. Elias. He woke gasping, the word on his tongue. The next morning, the mayor found him standing before the chapel gates. I had a name once, he said quietly. The mayor felt fear then, true fear, sharp and ancient. That's impossible, she said. He turned to her. You've said that before. The chains began to move again. Slowly. Reluctantly. The villagers noticed small things first. A name spoken accidentally at the well, and remembered the next day. A child asking about a grandfather who should not exist. Memory was leaking back. Alone into the chamber beneath the chapel. The stone basin was no longer still. You were promised rest, she whispered. The listener did not answer immediately. When it did, its presence was thinner, strained. The offering was incomplete. She closed her eyes. What do you mean? He gave his name, the listener replied. But not his story. The mayor understood with dawning horror. Elias had not fully surrendered. He had written. Recorded. Witnessed. And stories, once told, were harder to consume than names. Above ground, the stranger, Elias, sat at the inn table, pen moving faster now, clarity returning with every word. He remembered everything. The fire. The journal. The choice. And the truth the monk never wrote down. The listener was never a god. It was a keeper. A creature bound to remember humanity's worst truths so the world did not have to. Black Hollow had not been cursed. It had been protected. And now, that protection was failing. The bell rang, unchained. Not in hunger. But in warning. Elias closed the journal and stood. I'm sorry, he said to the empty room. I won't forget again. As the villagers gathered in the square, memories flooding back like a tide, the forest stirred. Not with absence. But with return. Far beneath the chapel, the listener unraveled, its burden too heavy at last. And for the first time in centuries, Black Hollow had to remember everything it had buried. Including what it had done. Years later, the village no longer exists. Maps show only forest. But travelers sometimes report hearing a bell deep in the trees. Not chained. Not hungry. But ringing softly. As if reminding the world that forgetting was never free.